What's up, guys? Welcome to this video. In today's video, we're going to be doing alternate history, and I did actually start a video, but I didn't actually realize that I didn't click record. So I started recording a video, but nothing really happened except for down here in the south, the last two pieces of um, the red team's colony broke away. These two countries right here, and well, it's probably going to lead to these guys breaking away, and well. Um, yeah, the red team's sphere of influence is getting weaker and weaker by each day, and eventually, well, they start to start focusing still. The red team, they're not really focusing here in Africa now. I mean, South America. They're now focusing on their economy, which still is not doing any better. It is actually doing worse than it ever has before. They are now the 55th, the fifth, like the 17th strongest country in the world, which is still like a force to be reckoned with, but they are dropping by each month, and the people governments are predicting that they will no longer be in the top 30 in the next like 10 years. But eventually the rest of the South America, it gets explored. And well, now all continents are pretty much fully explored for down here in India. Eventually that's like explored now. And well, now eventually you're going to have some country like the Russian alliance. They're here to mostly fund new countries in Asia and help out these countries in like this area. And I'll give you guys another power ranking pretty quickly here. So let me just quickly give you a power ranking of the top three. So you have the Russians. Russians are purple. The Korean country is green, and then the pink is, well, then the pink is like pink. So the Korean country is, well, you have, we'll do the climax of World War One, the big drop, and then the massively like skyrocketing, and this is like in 10 years, and they're like down here right now. Wait, no, they're like, yeah, they're actually like right here right now. And World War Two would be starting right about now in this timeline. You gotta remember that the Russians, they suffered the biggest loss in World War One, so they had like the biggest drop. And people are predicting for the Russians to actually surpass the Korean country, but the Korean country will like come back in after like a year or two. And well, our pink country, they look like this. They didn't suffer as big of a drop, but it looks like this, and it has started to climb up with the new alliance that they joined. With them joining the Russian alliance, it has started to go up. So yeah, this is what they'll all look like in 10 years, and they are predicted to all stay in the top three. But you can kind of see the massive difference between like the Russians and the Koreans, not that big of a difference, and then you have the massive drop right there. So yeah. And well, honestly, no country is totally upset about this, because like they're not really totally angry that their country is going to get stronger. But the Korean country and the Russian country, actually the whole Russian alliance, is like funding countries in the like new countries out here in Asia. Obviously, they're going to make some claims of their own, and they're going to get those claims because, well, they're strong countries. Who's really going to stop them? So the Koreans, they make very little claims. Well, yeah. They aren't actually. They're pretty much economically suffocating the country right here. You gotta remember, it is mainly controlled. So they're in the sphere of the Russian and the Green Team's influence, but they're in the sphere, but they aren't actually controlled by them. But if they were the Russians, they probably control this part of the country, and then the rest would probably go over to the green, or it'd probably look like this with the Russians, because the Russians they mostly live on this side, while the Korean people they mostly live on this side. So yeah, but the new countries, we needed some new countries, so let's get. I'll start drawing some new countries. So you're gonna have a new country starting up right about here, and it is actually going to be another one in the Indian area. But now, these two countries they aren't gonna get away without stealing some land before this country can fully become like one. And yes, they still do have a coastline. So before everyone's like, "Oh no, they don't have a coastal line," they do. It's well, eventually, a little like border dispute breaks out between these two countries. Um, they end up like it becomes like pretty much like a full out war, but some support from the two strongest countries. It's not looking so good for them. But yeah, they also get this island out here because of the support from them. And these two countries, they go ahead and make the decision to join the Russian alliance. So this one joins. This one joins because, well, they got support from the Russian alliance, so why wouldn't they? And, well, there we go. So, well, one new country has been formed, and, well, this country right here doesn't even have a capital, so let's go ahead and help them out. But they go ahead and join the Circle Alliance. They think that's for their own good. Probably isn't. Probably have a better time joining the Russian Alliance. And as you can remember, no alliance really likes each other because by this point it's no longer the government that gave the government that gave this land to them, because that was like over 200 years ago, and like switched their color from pretty sure it was like this color to the green. But eventually our red team they continue to collapse more and more, but at the same time, pink country they some like borders are changing pretty much all the time at this point. Not because of war, it's because the red team wants to make a little fun of them. Because, well, the red team, they demand that they'll say, we'll give you this land right here if you put your capital right here. They say, does that mean you'll give us the other half of the city? They said, nope. And you see, the French, they haven't really put much, like, money into fixing their old capital. So they are forced to put their capital back here. But for this land back, it was worth it. But now they're gonna have to rebuild and everything. And, well, yeah, it's not looking so good. Eventually, our this country, they go ahead and they spanned out a little bit more. They reach the Russians, and then the Russians they spanned out a little bit farther, and like the border did change a little bit here and there, one thing a little bit, but like eventually official border was set, and the rest went over to the light gray country. And, well, now you can kind of see how Europe is now fully explored. Like, there's no parts of Europe except for maybe this island. I don't know if it's a part of Europe. I think it might be. But, yeah. Now, Um, over here in Asia, there actually, I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering this correctly, there was a country right here. It was a green country, right? It surrounded that whole area, and then they just like dissolved. Like without any warning, the country was not stable enough. They didn't break up into a million pieces. They just completely just dissolved. Well, some people are like feeling like they want to go back to those old times, which is like over like 15,000 15,000 years ago. And well, they go ahead and restart the country, but they don't have good relations with the Russians because the Russians they have some of their old land. So yeah, but the Russians, they did send over some money just to help them out a little bit because that's like what the Russian alliance is doing right now. The Russians, they go ahead and start up, they're trying to fund a country in this area just to rival the Circle Alliance, and that's actually one of the reasons why the Russian alliance is doing this whole thing to start up to start a like battling the Circle team and the Heart Alliance, because all three alliances do not like each other. Sure, maybe some countries might like each other in different like areas, like the Russian and the Brown country like each other, but they go ahead and join the Russian alliance because well they were just supported by the Russians and founded by the Russians, so yeah. And well, over here in Africa, Asia, it's really mountainy right here, and like they have the technology to colonize this area. No one just really wants it, so they go ahead and start a whole another country right here. But this country is not funded by the Russian alliance. It is actually funded by the the Circle Alliance. So the Circle Alliance is now doing what the Russians are doing. And they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. We are definitely not trying to start our own. We're definitely not doing what you're doing. They aren't that big. They are actually quite a big country, but they're not that big. And while they go ahead and they do set up some, like, they do push out a little bit more, grow a little bit more. But our green country, they go ahead and they meet up with right here just to stop like any really growth from happening, just to make sure that they were able to be connected, that the Russian alliance is completely connected, and while the Circle Alliance is not, or the Red or the Heart Alliance isn't. And they go ahead and officially join the Circle Alliance. And well, this is about where it starts to come to a close, where the Russians start to stop doing this, and same with the Korean country, and same with the Circle country, because well, they're struggling right now. Well, they're not struggling. It's just they can feel a war coming on, and well, now they're focusing on their actual country. But yeah, so the leader of this Asian country right here, the Vietnam country, they go ahead and they fly over to the Brown country, and they say, if we go to war, don't backstab me. That's what he said in front of everybody, and like in front of the news press. It went wild. The whole world found out about it. Though it was crazy, and the government said, don't worry. well, he said don't worry about it. And well, that's kind of worrisome because like, don't worry about it. And well, eventually, our Russians they look at the sun one day and they're like, what if we make a bomb that powerful? So they're trying to research like some they're trying to research a really powerful bomb. But eventually some land disputes go on over here in like the red team, they're trying to get the Canadians on the side of the circle team, but eventually the Canadians they go ahead and join the Russian alliance, and well, our these guys they go ahead and stay out of it. Well, no, they don't. They join the Hard Alliance, which isn't a terrible choice, but at the same time it is because you're surrounded. But eventually, a little bit of eventually the red team they go ahead and one day the president gets assassinated. He was riding through the city one day, being all peacefully. He didn't do anything. So here's the path that he took. Here's his house. He was supposed to go through pretty much the whole town, the whole city, which is like this is the largest city in there, and then just meet right back up there. But about right on this corner, he was coming up to it, and bang, he was shot right here. And sirens were going off, and eventually, they didn't know who assassinated them, but what they do know is that this was going to be the end of their country, because with the leader was literally the only thing holding this country together. The rest of the island falls over to this country right here, and some of it falls back over to control over these guys because they did have control over here before they. So yeah, and well, our green country. They didn't really need this land. They just kind of wanted it, but they also didn't really. They were also not so happy about this happening because, well, you gotta remember this is like this. That's their ally that is now like collapsing into a trillion gazillion pieces. But now you go ahead and have our red team like officially done. This is there's no actually coming back from this. I know I've said that before, but like there's actually no coming back from this one. Our French country they get the rest of this land, and they officially technically own like what they did a long time ago. Before not a single other continent was even explored. But eventually the red team is left like this on its main island. But down here in Africa, there are like two countries, like two last countries in Africa that break away. The red country isn't losing complete control of their colonies. They still control over some islands, but that's about it. And well, eventually these islands, they do go ahead and break away, and the rest of the country does become one, because they were just like deciding they were pretty much already one country, but eventually these islands start to fall over to them, and then the red country is left with the smallest island and the farthest one. So it's not looking good. And eventually, this island right here, it goes ahead and falls over to the Canadian, and this colony right here, that becomes a pink colony. And this is now going to be complicated because, well, you have the French. The French, they go ahead and make some land grabs still. Because, like, yes, they are in the same alliance, but free land, who can say no to that? But you see, Now the French is not allowed to pass this line. Like, they aren't allowed to expand anywhere farther than the circling South America. And, well, our country, they go ahead and, well, the rest of our country, so this country right, you have a country breaking away right here. And, well, the rest, this isn't that big of a, like, it's land, but no one really knows what to do with it, so they just make a new country. And, well, they kind of put it in the least jungle, their capital's in, like, the least jungly area. Like, right there. So, yeah. This was, like, crazy and, like, terrifying. And they eventually find out that it was a Russian man that killed the red team's guy. And the red country, they go ahead and declare war on the Russians, and they are allowed back into the Circle Alliance. But, like, obviously they are not as strong as they once were. As you can obviously tell. Let me just redraw this quickly. Oh, shoot. It needs to go up one more. There. So, yeah. Now, they're back in the Circle Alliance, but the Russians, they start to getting declared war on one by one by the Circle Alliance. And, well, the only country that they actually really have to worry about is, like, the one, because, like, they don't border any circle except for, like, down here. But the Russian Alliance, they go ahead and get involved, and the Russians, they were like, don't get involved, don't get involved. But they got involved, and, well, yeah. They go ahead and they start pushing in pretty quickly. This country, they were pretty much ready for this. They were getting ready to declare war on them anyways. They were going for the capital, and they encircled the capital. But our new country, they go ahead and actually encircle it. They made the encirclement with lots of support from this country, but not that big of a deal. And this country, it pretty much is, like, surrenders immediately. And, well, everyone's, like, really upset with the Red Country and the Circle Alliance right now. Everyone in the world. Because they feel like that this is a, this is, like, an offense. And eventually, our first country to surrender. So they get a white dot. And, well, troops start moving through here. And the Russians, they go ahead and they start pushing in pretty hard. They, like, were not going to take this invasion lightly. Because they took this as an offense. And, well, the Russians, they've been working on dropping the sun. They're calling it the sun. And, well, they go ahead and they officially make one little test. And they test it out. And they built an asylum that they can launch the sun from. They tested it in the cold parts of Siberia. They tested it, like, up here, and it was so, like, powerful. They're like, I wonder what would happen if we drop it on a country. So they go ahead and they fly over a plane. So the plane, it's about right here in the red in the pink team's capital. It takes this route. And then one day, right here, boom! The sun was literally dropped on them. Only once, not twice. But you see, this literally pretty much destroyed this whole entire city. And, well, the red team is, like, pretty much declared absolutely useless after this happened because, well, yeah, I don't know how to show you how big and bad this explosion was, but it was bad, because, like, think about it, guys. They got the first nuclear bomb dropped on them, well, the second nuclear bomb ever made. And, well, the Russians, they go ahead and, well, they're going to have the number 1, because they're technically at 0, but they made another one, so they have one nuclear bomb, so they made another one. They were gonna drop 2 on them, but on the red team, but they decided that it would probably be too harsh because it's like the strongest bomb ever. So yeah, they have one nuclear bomb, like the only country that has one. And this actually completely pretty much knocks out the rest of uh the the red out of the Circle Alliance. So this pretty much destroys all the hope that the Circle Alliance ever had. With the Russians now moving quickly through here and not being able to be stopped, the Russians, they quickly just move through and are able to capture all the important cities that the Russians really need to connect to, like, make all the Russians under one country. So the Russians, they get all of this. So these guys, they actually end up leaving the Circle Alliance, and they sign a peace treaty with Russia, and Russia gets all of this with a little bit land down here, and while the Koreans, they get the rest. And well, guys, I've never done this in the history of my YouTube channel, but I'm gonna record part 2 to this after I'm done this video. So I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and well, peace.